Men, it's a great privilege I have to speak to you today about an issue that I think's very important, an issue that there's been a conspiracy of silence about, in the sense that no one's talking about it, even though it's something that is causing a tremendous amount of misery among men, and something that I think there should be a healthy discussion about. It's tangentially touched upon by certain movements that are marginal movements that exist, but no one really seems to be going into detail and having a mature adult discussion about it. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Antony Sammeroff. I'm a therapist. I work online, speaking to both men and women about all sorts of problems. And I am also a podcaster. I'm more known for my libertarian podcast, the Scottish Liberty Podcast. And I also host Be Yourself and Love It podcast, which is a personal development podcast that is dedicated to sharing really practical information that can be applied in day-to-day life, um, to help people live a better life. I found that the self-help industry is full of a lot of philosophizing and mental gibberish, and I was really uh, frustrated with how much of it is. I guess, when I was growing up and I was having my struggles, I thought that if I picked up a self-help book on something, I'd be greeted by an expert who knew how to solve the problem. And what I found over 10, 15 years of looking is that actually most self-help books are something to read on a plane. They're not really there to help people really change their life. They're just there for like some infotainment, and there's nothing wrong with infotainment. It's just when I was struggling myself, I wanted something deeper and more. So myself, I've written two short self-help books. One's called Procrastination Annihilation, and the other one is called How to Make Small Talk. And they're both available from my website for free. If you just go to beyourselfandloveit.com/do it, you can download you can download those two short ebooks and see if they change your life. Some people have sent me messages saying that they had a massive impact on their lives. So that's the plug, the standard establish your credibility as a speaker that we're all advised to do. And on to the content of our presentation. So what I really wanted to talk about is what I see as a epidemic of loneliness among men. And the fact that if you feel this way, you're kind of not allowed to talk about it. Um, there's several reasons for that. And I'm going to see if I can unpack the ones that I've noticed. Of course, I'd be extraordinarily interested to hear what you guys think. So, after this presentation, you can hit me up on Facebook, Antony Sammeroff, and tell me your thoughts on the matter. But I remember being dimly aware of this when I went to university. I was maybe like 22. I went as a mature student, in the loose sense of the term mature. And, I was into hobbies, um, like, playing games and things like that. I'd done some like RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons in school, but nothing serious, and I like those card games. I never really got into Warhammer and stuff, but there was a club there at uni, and I went along a few times. And let's just say that people who have that kind of interest aren't known for their social skills. Not to talk about myself too much, but yeah, when I was um, a teenager in school, I when I hit high school, I was really self-conscious about myself. I was always worried whether I was saying the right thing or doing the right thing or not. And uh, a lot of the time, things went wrong for me when I tried to play a role of being normal or something like that. What I thought other people in my age group should, but it always came across as weak and garbage because it didn't really suit my personality. It wasn't true to myself, so I wasn't strong in it because I wasn't confident. I didn't realize back then it's like the old song goes, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. So as an adult now, and having been involved in personal development for 15 years, and become really confident, not all the time, but a lot more confident than I than I've ever been before in my life. Um, I see how so much of life is having the confidence of your convictions, especially as a man. As a man, it's important for women as well, of course, but as a man, you're uniquely pressured to be confident in yourself. I think for women, they can get away with a lot of not being so confident. It's um, it's more socially acceptable, but if you're a little bit of a people pleaser as a guy, you won't get into conflicts as such, but people will not respect you as much as if you have the courage of your convictions. And that's true as well of women. But one thing is, as a man coming into an environment, in the same way that women are forced to submit to a beauty contest to some degree, men are constantly being scanned unconsciously by people by how confident you are, how alpha you are, where are you in the pecking order, and this goes on whether people are aware that it's happening or not, because it's an unconscious thing, and the unconscious scan is pretty successful for the main part. I mean, obviously, um, there's times when people feel more confident and less confident, and there's sometimes you think you don't like someone, and then you later find out that you have tons in common, and you do. But I'd say, on average, the apparatus that we've been given by nature is pretty successful at unconsciously scanning. There's stuff that can happen with trauma and stuff that can actually disable um, people's the effectiveness of people's scanning. But I digress. So one of the things we submit to is this hierarchy of how confident are you, how alpha are you, how much do you have the courage of your convictions. My podcast called Be Yourself and Love It podcast, and that's because it's not enough to be yourself. Most people would think be myself, like that's the last person I want to be, like the guy that didn't get dates at school. No, thank you. But so it's be yourself and love it. And what I learned is the more confident in yourself, the more you love being yourself, the more other people are accepting of your authenticity. I've pulled people up on things, I've given them harsh feedback and things like that, and because um, I felt congruent. I told them truths about myself that would make myself vulnerable, and because I felt like I had my self energy to back it up, um, they didn't go for me. Whereas in the past, when I was more of a people pleaser, I would be scared to say these things, and when I said them, my feeling of I'm not really sure I have the right to do this would come through, and that's when you get attacked. So, for example, I'm a vegetarian, and I hear from vegetarians and vegans all the time that, oh, I get shit at work for it. This person complains, this person gives me a hard time. Why are you eating that at work and stuff like that? I have never, in 12 years or so, like, I've maybe got crap for that like twice. Why? Because I don't care. I don't care what other people think. I'm happy with my diet. So, no one really gives me a hard time for it. Stuff like that. That's the difference, because women are allowed to be vulnerable in a real sense vulnerable. Men are allowed to be vulnerable if they're being vulnerable in a sense in which they're totally okay with being vulnerable. Like I'm allowed to be vulnerable and it's my right to do so, and here's something private and personal I'm choosing to share with you, which, you know, isn't, that's not the real vulnerability, is it? That's not when you feel like needy, you know. Neediness can be um, very corrosive to our relationships, and men have a sense of that, and they're told by certain movements, especially that movement beginning with F, that you know, we're meant to embrace our vulnerability. But the reason why we don't is because we know that in many cases we've all experienced it. We've got a sense. You can feel your attractiveness go down on a thermometer if you express your vulnerability sometimes. So yeah, I guess I've come a long way in my tangents, but it's all relevant to the overall thing of the epidemic of loneliness. So I was speaking about when I was participating in these when I was growing up, I didn't have the courage of my convictions, and I was really lucky because when I was about 14, 15, I started hanging out with rockers, and I finally found a sense of identity that suited me. Because when I was growing up, my brother used to listen to Guns N' Roses, Rage Against the Machine, all of this kind of heavy metal, and I loved that when I was, you know, I was 4, 5, 6 years old, jumping up and down to guitar solos. So I felt like I refound that identity. And through hanging out with all these people, I gradually became more confident. And the thing, it took a long time. It took years and years and years and years. But it was a gradual thing, and I definitely, you know, saw some mild bullying and things, and people didn't like me because they could sense, because I was such a people pleaser, and they could sense that weakness in me that they, you know, they didn't like in themselves, the fact that I was vulnerable, and uh, and some people took objection to me, but lots of people loved me as well. So in that more supportive social group, and there's a lot of rockers. I mean, living in Glasgow, Scotland, so there's always new people to meet. I got some experience with women, um, like not as much as I might have liked to, but you know, by the time I was 22, I was a much more confident person. Now I see how much further I had to come. I mean, I was self-conscious about the fact that I was 22 and the people in my year at uni were like 18, you know. I was self-conscious about things like that, which seem ridiculous now. Um, and that kind of held me back in many ways, my insecurities. So, but I'd come a long way, and and like looking at these kind of people who'd hang around the student union, some of them might be part of that games club and things like that. I could tell that they were really down and depressed. And if you asked them why, they wouldn't tell you why. They just, well, in my opinion, they wouldn't tell you the real reason why. And they just say, oh, you know, blah. And some of them were on meds and stuff like that. But I had a sense that when it comes down to it, the real reason why they were depressed is because they couldn't get a girl. And they didn't see themselves having any prospects of ever getting a girl. And they tied their self-esteem to being able to get a girl. And in a way, nature ties your self-esteem to being able to get a girl. I know the people in the MGTOW movement, as some of you might be watching, that's I'm not going to butt heads with you or anything like that. It's a valid lifestyle choice, but they might not like that idea. Like nature, um, I'm totally fine with people making that decision. I can see why someone would make that decision, especially now with, you know, divorce courts and all that, and how badly things are stacked against us. Personally, my view is it's like this is life is like you've been dragged to the casino by your friends, right? And you've been given £100 to, or $100 or euros to play with, and um, you're there for the whole night, whether you like it or not. And for me personally, it's like you've got the choice to sit in the corner and go, I don't like the game. It's so unfair I didn't even want to go to the casino. It's so unfair that we've been dragged out here. Um, I don't want anything to do with this. Or you can go, well, look, by the end of the night, the money's going to everything's going to be taken away from me at the end anyway, right? That's what happens at the end of life. So you've got a choice to gamble and surf the highs and the lows, or you can try and opt out of the game, but you're still going to be in the casino all night. So that's why for me personally, I've never considered the kind of MGTOW choice, but that is one that I respect. Um, if that people have the right to take. So one way or another, there's a bunch of reasons why we can't talk about this. One is, well, it's fucking humiliating. Most guys aren't going to go and say, I'm depressed because I can't get a girl. Then there's all the unsolicited advice that you're going to get when you say that. Most of it bullshit, unhelpful, nothing that's going to enrich your life or be practical. And then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to go on a pickup course or something like that? Most guys aren't into that um, way of looking at the dating market, even calling it market. I personally think it's okay. I'm an economics geek. I don't mind that much having terms like sexual market value and stuff like that because I think they're to a degree true, and I love the truth. But here's the thing. You can admit that you are not good at speaking languages and would like help with that. You can admit that you're not good at tidying your room, as Jordan Peterson might ask you to. You can say you're a chronic procrastinator. You can say that you uh, are not good at working a regular job, but you can't say that you're not good with women because your value as a man is judged by that. And actually, it's pretty much tantamount to saying, I admit that I fail as a man. And no one wants to and no one wants to do that. But there's a conspiracy of silence over the fact that so many guys are lonely. I'm going to focus on the kind of women thing, but I don't even mean in that way, because if you've not got those social skills, a lot of these people don't have close friends or anything either. When I moved to Edinburgh, I remember I was looking on meetup.com for meetups that I might be interested in, and I joined some sci-fi club, and I went to someone's house to watch a movie, and oh, I felt so sad because, you know, I've for my whole life I've been obsessed with communication. I think it's because my parents argued a lot, and I know I didn't want that in my life. So I became obsessed with reading books on communication and practicing what I'd learned. One of the best books you should buy is How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk, not just for dealing with your kids, but for dealing with your adults, and also for understanding why the way that adults spoke to you when you were a kid wasn't appreciated by you, why you didn't like it. You got to read that book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. It was a big part of my healing journey. Another great book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. And there's a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel on improving your communication skills. Antony Sammeroff. So I felt like it reminded me of when I was a kid, when I told you, and I was self-conscious about everything I said. There was this constant, like, thing amongst the geeks, and I say that appreciatively because I consider myself a geek. Um, like, a girl had Bagpuss on the television, and Bagpuss is fucking awesome. And there was this, like, why is Bagpuss thing on? They couldn't just say, like, let's change it or something like that. It was like, and I could see, she was like, oh shit, am I lower now? Am I lower? And am I? Everyone had this. where am I? Like, am I okay? And also the flip side of that was judging everyone else is okay or not. So that kind of thing, that's like everyone in the room having low self-esteem and having to validate themselves by um, their place. And so this is again, women can get away with this because as a woman, your sexual market value is very much just tied to the fact that you have a vagina. You know, women are attractive qua women, whereas men have to earn their attractiveness. So unless you happen to be Brad Pitt, but look, look how confident Brad Pitt is. Um, you could get a really good looking guy who has no confidence and was got abused the crap out of by his parents and in school, and his looks will get his foot in the door with women, but they won't stick around. So seeing this and hearing online that looking at the human genome, it looks like 80% of the women who've ever lived have procreated, whereas only 40% of the men who've ever lived have procreated. Then if you look at as people get older, um, women just tend to pair off. At some point they pair off, whereas a whole bunch of men are just getting weeded out of the gene pool, 60% of them. So it's like, it's brutal. I guess I was just saying you need good social skills to form good friendships as well, so that you meet people who contribute to your well-being and like will do for you, will go out their way for you. Like I'm going to Mexico on Monday, and like I've got friends coming through from another city to see me this weekend. Like um it took me a while. I've been collecting. I've been collecting the good people, but it's like I've got amazing friends. Um and it makes me sad that not everyone has this, especially, I don't know, it's hard to make friends as an adult for most people. And no one's talking about it, no one seems to care. We're in a lockdown now, which isn't going to make it any easier. Um, Women tend to find a friendship group of girls, guys, you know what? What? Who's doing anything to help us? And then there's other factors that I want to speak about. Um, to return to the what are you supposed to do, right? I feel like there's not a healthy conversation going on. I think some of the MGTOW stuff is good. Like they would be telling you to find a good social circle, a good group of guys that can support you, um, and to make you independent of needing a woman. I think that's important. I never really saw when I was in school. I was uh, I had tons of female friends and only, a couple of close male friends. I never had a group of guys. I didn't see the benefit of a group of guys until my mid-20s, and it was so good. It was so good going out to the pub and talking guy stuff with guys. I think that's really important, whether you want a woman or not. Um, but who are people going to go to for advice on attracting a good woman? Where's the healthy conversation happening if for those of us who that's important to, or women, you know, I've gone through periods of being non-monogamous, and that's brought me good challenges that I didn't mean to say good challenges, but it's true. They were good. They were character building in terms of my confidence of being able to communicate my needs to the people um, that I was involved with, and it's scary, you know, saying this is this is where I need to be right now. This is what I need to do. Are you cool with that? And being able to risk losing someone over it. So given that the most people don't want to see it as a kind of rat race, while like I'm not going to say there's no good stuff in the pickup community. I mean, I think there's quite a lot of good stuff, but people, you know, uh, there's there there's all sorts of different schools in there, but some of them feel like would feel like quite inauthentic to a lot of people. And to some people, it feels like, you know, what am I meant to be, this all singing, all dancing monkey that has to do all these tricks and things like that. I think in recent years, there's a lot of stuff that's come out that's a lot more about being your best self. But I mean that, in my experiences, that isn't really enough. You need to learn to really understand women. I mean, and I went out for a couple of years after I had a major breakup, speaking to strangers, improving my social skills, learning about people, learning about women, and I put a lot of what I learned into my YouTube series called How to Make Small Talk. There's a playlist on my YouTube channel. Um, and you know, a lot of people don't like the word small talk, but um, you know, if you could, they're building blocks to help people find their way to connecting with others. And once you're able to do that, you can chuck out small talk, quite frankly. The more confident you become, the more you're allowed to you're allowed, that's such a funny turn of phrase, but the more people will expect you to steward interactions. When people read you for how confident you are, if you're the most, like, I noticed this when I was going out and improving my confidence, improving my social skills, um, you know, when I was really self-conscious, I'd say something and I'd look to the person on my left or look to the person on my right to check if I was okay, you know, if I was saying the right thing, if I was good with the group. And later on, I realized, of course, that's like lower self-esteem. Later on, the more confident you become, you'll notice that other people say something and then they look to you. And then it's like, oh, I'm the most confident person in the group, obviously, because they're looking at me to find out if what they said was okay. This happened more and more the more confident you become. So what I learned is it's possible to become more confident. It's possible to improve your social skills and to learn about women. I've not really put out much content yet on what I've learned um, specifically regarding women. I've not really felt ready to broadcast it personally, although it's come up in some of my coachings and therapy. And you know, my friends will, if they're having trouble with texts, you know, that impossible thing. Uh, how do you text a woman? I was the person that they come to for help with that because of the experience that I've had and because they've seen what I'm like around strangers and how I can meet strangers and spontaneously um, connect with them and create an atmosphere. That's like being in heaven to me. You know, I was such a weirdo as far as everyone else was concerned at school. You know, I was so not confident about myself. So it means a lot to have come to this point. And I guess what I'm saying is I just don't want people to be opting out of playing in this casino when it can be so much fun to socialize. I want people to have the resources and the internal resources to go out and create the kind of relationships that make them satisfied, whether that's with or without women. Um, and um, no one's talking about it, so that's why I'm talking about it. This is just the beginning of a conversation because I think I would like to create the healthy conversation about it. Um, and if you guys who are listening get in touch with me on Facebook, that could be the beginning of the healthy conversation about how to solve this um, epidemic of loneliness about men, because I don't have any amazing solutions yet. I'm working on it. But the first thing is to be having the conversation, because I'm just not sure that there is a healthy conversation about it. I think things are really exacerbated by the dating apps, and this is something that some people might see. What I'm going to say might seem to some people as quite controversial, but I don't really mind about that. Um, from what I saw, the data was even very good looking guys, hardly get any swipes. And it might be, if you're very good looking, you might get one in 86. And then there was data from OkCupid that women almost rate no one as a 5 out of 5 for looks. You know, they um whereas men are much more generous in the rating of women looks wise. So this has exacerbated the race to the bottom or the race to the top. Because here's my theory. I didn't hear this anywhere. It's kind of like my own original thinking. Um, if you were, before we had these dating apps, before everything was online, if you were a woman that was, let's say, of moderate or far below average attractiveness looks wise, if you wanted to get attention from men, you'd go to a bar or a club and you turn your body towards where everyone stands, and this goes for all women. Over the course of the night, men would approach you, and the quality of those men and the quantity of those men would give you a estimate of how attractive you are and what you could expect in a man, what you could reasonably expect to get, and you could choose the best option out of those men. And that would go for all women. You'd be able to get an accurate view of how attractive you are and what you can expect, what you can reasonably expect to get, and you could pick your best option. Whereas now with dating apps, Tinder, Bumble, OkCupid, Snapchat, I know it's not a dating app, there's millions of these bloody things, right? Whatever, however, I hate you. This is, I'm stumbling. I'm being politically correct. I don't want to like call a girl a 6 out of 10 or something looks wise, and I don't want to say like a girl with low sexual market value. Yeah, is that out of respect, or is that socially conditioned? Am I not allowed to do that? Have I picked up a rule? But anyway, you get where I'm coming from, right? You're going to be getting shit tons of attention from men every day on these apps, even if you're not that attractive. And that's basically giving you false signals of how attractive you are. And by doing that, it's giving you a false estimation of what you can reasonably expect from a man, especially if you're looking for a monogamous relationship. So there was a meme going around on the internet which was like, sex is the new nine, right? Sex is the new nine. That meant it was as hard to pull a 6 out of 10 as a 9 out of 10. I love that. That's so funny. So the problem with this is, as a woman, you think that you can get a guy that has much higher sexual market value. But because a tiny percentage of guys are getting all the swipes, those guys that you think you're entitled to, they've got tons of options with women. So if you do get with them, they're just going to, I'm going to be rude here, they're just going to want to pump and dump, right? And you're getting more and more bitter about men because all of the men that you sleep with don't want a relationship with you because they've got tons of options. And in the meantime, you think that all of these other men over here who are lonely and want to get into a relationship are below you. So So it's an arms race, and the odds are stacked against the majority of men, but they're also making women completely miserable because all the guys that they're interested in have so many options that they're not interested in a relationship. So these are some of my own analyses. I've never put this theory out there before, so it would be great to have your feedback. But that's what I think's going on. That's why I think things have got worse than ever for guys in the dating market. And what this means is you need some social skills if you want a woman or if you want a good social circle. But you shouldn't really you should want them for you. That's the thing. I mean, one of the things that motivated me in improving my social skills was I felt like I owed it to myself. I owed it to little Anthony who didn't get dates in school. Little Antony, who fancied a lot of those rock chicks he was um, hanging out with when he was 15, 16, 17, but oh, I have a boyfriend, and and how they went for someone more confident. Um, and I definitely owed it to myself to have an excellent friendship group because, my friendship group might have been like those geeks that I went to hang out with and watch a sci-fi movie with. It was The Wrath of Khan, by the way. Yes. Um, that was after Bagpuss. By the Bagpuss is equally great or superior to the Wrath of Khan. Sorry if anyone's offended by me saying Bagpuss is better than the Wrath of Khan, but I'm convinced that it is. It fucking is. Bagpuss is amazing. If you've not watched it, you can watch the whole 10 episodes in under 2 hours, I think. Um, so So, yeah, I mean, I just don't think my friendship groups were that good in school. I put up with a lot of crap behavior. That's what's going to happen when you have low self-esteem. That's what's going to happen when you've not reached your potential as a man. A lot of people feel like this pressure on themselves, and for me, it's because it's not nice to put pressure on yourself, but I just feel like from my whole life I've known a greater version of myself is ready to be born, which is why I am so interested in personal development. I'm always reminded of that anecdote that Michelangelo was asked, "How did you carve David?" And he said, "Well, that was easy. I just took away everything that wasn't David." When I was improving my social skills, it didn't make me more inauthentic like a lot of the pickup artists become because they're practicing routines and stuff like that. It made me more authentic because the more confident I got in myself, the more I was just allowed to be who I am because I've got the courage of my convictions about it. I'm the most confident person in the interaction. Therefore, people are looking to me for social skills. Sorry, social cues, rather than me looking to them for social cues, so I can be myself. And because I love authentic relationships, I give them permission to be themselves. And around other confident people, it's just like a multiplication thing. We help each other become better versions of who we are. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, if it appeals to you, if you want to transcend the epidemic of loneliness and then help other men um, transcend the epidemic of loneliness, then I'm interested in speaking to you. I'd like to start the healthy conversation, um, starting with ourselves, because I really believe that you teach by example, putting it into our own lives, chipping away at everything that isn't Anthony, chipping away at everything that isn't, you know, whatever your name is, to become, the person that you've always had the potential to be, and to get the rewards of a good girl or girls and a great friendship circle. Whatever you want, whatever your goals are, whatever you owe it to yourself, what do you owe it to yourself to create in this life for yourself? So I think that's what I want to say. I want to start this conversation with you about the epidemic of loneliness amongst men and how to cure it, starting with myself and yourselves. If you're interested, add me on Facebook or email me Antony@beyourselfandloveit.com. Go and get my free ebooks, beyourselfandloveit.com/do it. I'd probably be remiss not to mention that I'm a therapist, a counselor, and also a coach. So if you think that you'd benefit from working with me, then definitely get in touch. But I'd be interested in hearing from anyone who's interested in the topics I've raised. Thank you so much to the organization for having me, and I can't wait to hear from you all.